Combining the frustration of random encounters with the fun of random encounters, March of the Living is the FTL of zombies. And that's a good thing. Zombie-themed games are a dime a dozen these days, pixel graphic games are a nickel a dozen, and you can get a roguelike for a penny. It's fairly easy to dismiss games of these types without a second thought. A plethora of positive reviews for March of the Living, a combination of these game types, intrigued me, so I decided to give it a go. Imagine my surprise when I was met not with disappointment as I was expecting, but a game that is actually a lot of fun, assuming you're a fan of games like FTL, Faster Than Light. So, what on earth is March of the Living? It chronicles the journey of individuals across a world where the zombie outbreak has already occurred, where walkers stalk the streets and every bullet and bandage is worth twice its weight in gold. You select the route that your character takes from the left side of the map to the right side, traversing mostly across highways that occasionally intersect with cities and cabins depending on what routes you choose at each point along the way. This traversal system is very much like FTL, as are the random encounters you find at each point on the map, which are mostly negative but can occasionally lead to good things too. It's rare to pass through a point on the map without something happening, so you're rarely left with any downtime in between trying to kill a horde of zombies or decide what to do in human interaction situations. These human interaction situations occur a lot in the game, and in the half or dozen so attempts I've made at varying difficulties, I've only seen repeated interactions a handful of times between playthroughs. Aside from bartering and combat, human interactions occur through text, which is a heavy element of the game. There's no voice acting, and everything that happens is displayed in text in some form or fashion. Running into a group of people fighting with each other, or a woman trapped in a car and surrounded by zombies is described purely in text, and left to your imagination to flesh out the details. Some of the first games I played as a child were the text-based adventure games from Infocom, like Zork, Planetfall, and The Lurking Horror, so I'm fairly critical when it comes to relying on text as your primary narrative in the game. March of the Living pulls it off splendidly though, and successfully communicates the horror, desperation, and occasionally small joys of the zombie-filled world. A good zombie-themed movie, TV show, book, or game will focus on what really matters, the people, not the zombies, using the undead horror as a set piece instead of as the central focus. There's a sense of real emotion that bleeds through the game's text, which isn't easy to do. I'm impressed. Retro pixel graphics make up the rest of the game that isn't communicated through text descriptions, and while I'm a little tired of seeing the pixelated style, March of the Living does a good job with it. The backgrounds aren't complicated and don't vary hugely through your journey, but there's enough going on in the foreground that you'll rarely have a chance to pay attention to the static backgrounds. There are too few variations in zombie outfits to keep things interesting on that front, but again, the game plays out so quickly that you don't really have a time to notice those details very much. The player characters and friendly NPCs are designed nicely and are distinct enough that it's hard to mix up who's who even in the middle of a complex fight. Speaking of fighting, the combat encounters are something that takes getting used to, but once you do, you'll come up with some easy strategies for quickly defeating the zombies. Then your strategies will be reduced to a puddle of blood on the road as the game throws 2 or 3 times the normal amount of zombies at you once you enter the next area. Combat occurs in real time, but there's a pause mechanic that gives you a chance to issue orders that will be carried out when you resume the game, so you can tell your character and friendly NPCs where to go, give them attack or reload orders, and have a bit of tactical control that will fall apart when you realize, oh crap, there aren't just rotters in this group, but screamers and biters too. Combat interactions occur randomly along the road, and when you enter city locations to scavenge for supplies, the longer you take to scavenge, the greater your potential reward, but the higher likelihood you have for entering combat. A day and night system ensures that at some point you'll face a large group of zombies coming at you from both directions while you have either one or no flashlights, making it easy to miss a lone zombie creeping on you from the bottom edge of the screen. Members of your party don't have very much health, so the option to flee from battles is one I took often when it was clear I didn't have the firepower to win. But the consequences of fleeing can be just as bad as if your battle with the zombies goes poorly. I lost random items from my inventory, weapons, ammo, and even people when fleeing, and on one of my best runs I went from a 5-person party down to a 2-person party, not because I lost people to zombies, but because when I fled, the people vanished, presumably having either been devoured or just deciding to abandon me. No real shock there. The controls and interface could be smoother and easier to use, and I think the pixel graphics nature of the game holds it back a lot here, keeping it from having an easy to use interface that would conflict with the style of the game. If the interface was a little bit better, I feel like I could easily manage 4 or more party members in real time during combat, but there's a lot of information being thrown at you all at once in ways that aren't super intuitive that keep that from happening. Thankfully, being able to pause the game whenever you want keeps this from becoming too big of a deal. March of the Living's audio is good, adding plenty of atmosphere through sound effects and music without becoming becoming overpowering. Gunshots and melee blows sound solid and add some satisfaction when paired with the collapsing zombie corpse. I'd be curious to see what the addition of some more haunting, creepier music might do during night travel, but given that the day and night cycle changes so quickly, I doubt that would work very well. Priced at $14.99 on Steam, if you enjoy roguelikes in the vein of FTL and aren't tired of zombie-themed games, March of the Living is well worth the purchase price. It brings more than the standard zombie tropes to the table by infusing some genuine feeling and emotion through its text sequences and making the game feel surprisingly real in spite of the pixel graphics. I recommend this title without reservation, and if you haven't already picked it up, encourage you to do so. I'm Mike and this is Game Night with Mike. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks, and I'll be back again soon.